In tonight's news edition, U.S. President Barack Obama, making his first visit to Saudi Arabia since 2009, holds talks with King Abdullah on Gulf security, as well as the latest developments in the Middle East. Russia approves an initial financial aid package for Crimea as the United States and the EU impose 2 rounds of visa bans and asset freezes on Russian officials. And 6 people are killed and another wounded in an attack on a Kabul guest house used by foreign and Afghan citizens. Good evening and very warm welcome to the news. U.S. President Barack Obama, making his first visit to Saudi Arabia since 2009, met King Abdullah bin Abdulaziz for 2 hours of talks that aides said would focus on Middle East peace, Iran, and ways to strengthen moderate opposition in Syria. The Saudi monarch and Obama made no public statements, but in the run-up to the visit, officials had said Obama would aim to persuade the king that Saudi concerns that Washington was slowly disengaging from the Middle East and no longer listening to its old ally were unfounded. The U.S. delegation accompanying Obama's included U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and National Security Advisor Susan Rice. Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes said coordination with the kingdom on Syria policy, particularly regarding providing assistance to the Syrian rebels, had improved. At least 3 people were killed in clashes in Cairo amid protests by the Muslim Brotherhood days after hundreds of its supporters were sentenced to death. A local newspaper said one of its female journalists had died covering fighting, which security sources said had involved Brotherhood supporters, security forces and residents. A health ministry official said 3 people had been killed and at least 1 of those died from live ammunition, while state-run news agency MENA said 4 citizens were killed in the clashes. Hundreds of Brotherhood supporters took to the streets in scattered protests across the country today, in some instances throwing missiles at police who fired tear gas. Over to Syria. Video uploaded to the internet purportedly showed the moment a Syrian warplane targeted a group of rebel fighters in rural Damascus. Another video purportedly shot in Aleppo showed bands of rebels firing assault rifles and launching mortars at targets presumed to be government forces. In another video said to be shot near the town of Kasab in Latakia, rebels from the Ahrar al-Sham brigade showed off vehicles that they say were captured from government forces. In Lebanon, masked gunmen shot dead a policeman in the northern city of Tripoli, the second killing of a member of the security forces in 2 days. The shooting came a day after Prime Minister Tamam Salam's new cabinet approved a security plan for the city, where at least 29 people have been killed in the last 2 weeks. The violence in Lebanon has been fueled by the civil war in neighboring Syria, where rebels are battling to topple President Bashar al-Assad. Salam's predecessor, Najib Mikati, announced in December that he had given the army full responsibility for restoring control in Tripoli, but the move failed to stem the bloodshed. Russia has retaliated against expanded sanctions imposed by Western countries over its annexation of Crimea. The Russian government approved an initial financial aid package for Crimea to help the local economy as it consolidates control over the region. Meanwhile, the United States and the EU have imposed 2 rounds of visa bans and asset freezes on Russian officials. Here's an update.
The rift between the United States and Russia is deepening as Russian troops are increasing their build-up on Ukraine's border. U.S. President Barack Obama described the Russian action as out of the ordinary and called on Moscow to pull its military back. In an interview with the CBC Evening News, Obama said the moves might be no more than an effort to intimidate Ukraine, but could be a precursor to other actions.
Well known and well acknowledged that you've seen a range of troops massing along that border under the guise of military exercises, but these are not what Russia would normally be doing. And it may simply be an effort to intimidate Ukraine, or it may be that they've got additional plans. And In either case, what we need right now to resolve and de-escalate the situation would be for Russia to move back those troops and to begin negotiations directly with the Ukrainian government as well as the international community.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said he hopes the European Union would accept the developments in Ukraine and Crimea with a sense of reality.
It's a good opportunity for us to exchange views on bilateral relations. They're developing quite well. We have a number of new agreements being negotiated.
Russia's Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu told President Vladimir Putin that all Ukrainian servicemen loyal to Kiev had left Crimea and the Russian flag was flying over all military sites on the Black Sea Peninsula. He also requested Putin's permission to return warships, warplanes and other military hardware seized by Moscow to the Ukrainian army. Addressing a parliament session, acting President Alexander Tushinov accused Russia of attempting to destabilize the situation in Kiev. A far-right radical group that played a central role in the revolt that overthrew President Viktor Yanukovych rallied angrily outside parliament, demanding the dismissal of the interior minister after one of the group's most prominent activists was killed. Ukrainians ousted President Viktor Yanukovych called for each of the country's regions to hold a referendum on its status instead of the presidential elections planned for May 25th. As the first step to economic independence from Ukraine, Crimea took ownership of Ukrainian state companies on its territory, including the region's Black Sea natural gas fields. Crimea's first Deputy Prime Minister Rustem Timurgaliev said that unification with Russia will lead to a rapid development and economic growth of the peninsula, which he believes has been neglected by Kiev for over 20 years. Lu'ayb Al-Qarr for the news at 10.
Turks on the streets raised concerns over a widening social media ban as authorities blocked YouTube. The decision to block YouTube came after a leaked recording of top security officials discussing possible military action in Syria was posted on the video sharing site. The anonymous posting was on audio file with photographs of the officials involved. It followed similar releases on social media in recent weeks that Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan has cast as a plot by his political enemies, particularly a Turkish Islamic cleric based in the United States, to unseat him ahead of March 30th elections. The posting took the campaign to a higher level, impinging on a highly sensitive top-level meeting of security officials. Residents of Ankara said the social media ban was a breach of freedoms. Chinese family members of passengers aboard missing flight MH370 walked out of a briefing held by the Malaysian government to show their dissatisfaction with the answers given to them over the plane's demise. An international air and sea task force hunting for the wreckage of the plane was redirected to an area 1,100 kilometers north of where they have been searching for more than a week. Chinese Foreign Ministry said China has deployed 21 satellites, more than 10 vessels, dozens of aircrafts to spare no efforts to conduct search and rescue operation. Here's more.
Australian authorities are shifting the focus of their search for the wreckage of the missing Malaysia Airlines jet. They are moving more than 1,000 kilometers northeast after receiving a new lead from Malaysia. For more than a week, ships and planes have been scouring the seas 2,500 kilometers southwest of Perth, where satellite images suggested debris from flight MH370 could be found.
This continuing analysis indicates the plane was travelling faster than was previously estimated, resulting in increased fuel usage and reducing the possible distance it travelled south into the Indian Ocean.
The latest twist underscores the frustrating hunt for evidence in the nearly 3-week search.
This is the normal business of search and rescue operations, that new information comes to light, refined analyses take you to a different place. I don't count the original work a waste of time.
The U.S. is sending a second P-8 Poseidon aircraft to join the 10 international planes and 6 ships now searching the area. time is running out too to pick up traces from the plane's black box recorder, which could give the long elusive answers to why it went off course.
One Afghan child was killed and another wounded in an attack on a Kabul guest house used by foreign and Afghan citizens. The Taliban immediately claimed responsibility, saying in a statement the target was a foreign guest house and a church. A spokesman for Kabul's police chief said a suicide bomber had detonated his explosive-laden car in front of the guest house and added that a number of suicide bombers appeared to be inside the building. Official sources said 5 of the attackers were killed, adding no foreigners were hurt. Afghan security forces cordoned off the area, but the siege was lifted after taking down the last Taliban gunmen holed up inside. The Afghan capital is on high alert ahead of next week's presidential election, which the Taliban have vowed to disrupt. Sipping coffee while surrounded by a dozen cats is an experience that London's First Cat Cafe hopes will help stressed-out office workers unwind after a long day of work. Lady Dinah's Cat Emporium, based in Shoreditch on the fringes of London's financial district, gives its customers the chance to cuddle and play with 11 rescued cats in a relaxed environment over cappuccino and cake. Emulating a concept first made popular in Japan, the cafe is riding on the growing popularity of felines on the internet and social media, where viral videos of cats in playful antics have led to them being seen as both cute and cool. To the world of style, Russian fashion designer Salva Zaitsev opened the Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week in Moscow with a collection of languid evening dresses, overcoats with fur collar and colorful suits. Among young models on the catwalk was administrator of Zaitsev fashion house Irina. She volunteered as a model as Zaitsev created a small collection for her. Also on the catwalk were older models to reflect the diversity of costumers. Zaitsev's son also presented his own collection after his father's show. The other star of the day was actress turned film director turned fashion designer Rentana Litvinova. She presented a collection of clothes that were easy to wear and mix. Over 30 designers were set to present their collections over 4 days. Lena of China swept past Dominika Cipulkova of Slovakia at the Sony Open semi-finals in Miami. Lee won a rematch of her Australian Open final, beating the Slovakian 7-5, 2-6, 6-3 to maintain her perfect record against the Slovakian. Lee's mastery over Cipulkova may not span as many years, but is no less complete, the Chinese veteran sweeping all 7 of their meetings over a decade-long span. The Chinese will face world number 1 Serena Williams, who reached her 9th Sony Open final after cruising past Maria Sharapova with a clinical 6-4, 6-3 victory. Williams, a 6-time winner on the Miami hard courts, ran her winning streak against Sharapova to 15 matches, a stunning one that stretches back to 2004. Williams might add a 7th Miami trophy to her collection on Saturday when she plays Chinese world number 2 Lena tomorrow. And Barcelona are preparing for their city derby against Espanyol only a few days after losing goalkeeper Victor Valdés with a knee injury in the 3-0 win against Celta Vigo. The injury of Valdés is a serious blow for Barca as they fight a 3-way battle for the La Liga title. But coach Gerardo Martino said the 32-year-old goalkeeper's misfortune could only strengthen the Spanish champions. Barca needs a win over 8th-placed Espanyol this weekend to replace Diego Simeone's side, who play 4th-placed Atletico Bilbao. Finally, a look at the weather forecast. Relatively cold tonight across the hilly areas and fair elsewhere in the country, while winds will be northwesterly fresh. Warm conditions will persist tomorrow across many regions and hot in the Jordan Valley, with a high expected to reach 32 degrees Celsius at the Dead Sea. But in the evening hours, there will be a chance for light rain, especially in the northern regions. Winds will be southwesterly, changing to northwesterly fresh. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect a cool night tonight and hot tomorrow, with northerly fresh winds and slightly choppy seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. Now our top stories once again. US President Barack Obama, making his first visit to Saudi Arabia since 2009, holds talks with King Abdullah on Gulf security, as well as the latest developments in the Middle East. Russia approves an initial financial aid package for Crimea as the United States and the EU impose 2 rounds of visa bans and asset freezes on Russian officials. And 6 people are killed and another wounded in an attack on a Kabul guest house used by foreign and Afghan citizens. And that's the end of tonight's news. My name is Raed Lapouche. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.